When you take a look at the modern landscape of the black community, you will see a series of normalized tragedies. You see the single-mother household not as a problem, but as a now normalized standard. You see the absentee father not as a missing part of the family, but as a statistical expectation. You see a multi-billion-dollar rap industry that glamorizes the very drug blocks and gang wars that took fathers and sons out our neighborhoods. To the people outside looking in, this looks like a cultural choice. It looks like a community that simply stopped valuing the stable nuclear family. But that is the ultimate deception. What looks like a current problem is actually the toxic, long-lasting aftermath of a war that started 60 years ago. And it is still damaging both the people's health and their communities today. The comfort with fatherless homes, the acceptance of the hustle, and the trauma bonding of the streets are the survival mechanisms of a people who were chemically and legally targeted. We are living in the legacy of the crack era, but that era did not start in the 80s. It started in the jungles of Vietnam. To understand why the black family is in its current state, we have to go back to the moment the American government turned the black soldier into a drug addict and the black neighborhood into a profit center for the deep state. The dismantling began in Southeast Asia. During the Vietnam War, the United States military operated as a state-sanctioned drug distributor. This was the first wave of trauma. To keep black soldiers functioning in a war many did not believe in, the Department of Defense issued over 225 million tablets of Dexedrine and other stimulants between 1966 and 1969. These were high-potency pep pills designed to override the human need for sleep and the human instinct of fear. When the soldiers crashed, the military handed out barbiturates to bring them down. By the time high-purity heroin appeared in the Golden Triangle, the American soldier was already a chemical slave. The CIA, through its shadow airline Air America, provided the logistics for the opium trade to flourish, supporting anti-communist warlords like Vang Pao. While the soldiers were in the foxholes, the CIA was ensuring the poppies were harvested and refined. By 1971, 15% of U.S. servicemen were addicted to heroin. When these men returned home, they did not return to the provider role. They returned as broken, addicted men to cities like New York and Chicago that were already being stripped of industrial jobs. The 1970s heroin epidemic, fueled by kingpins like Frank Lucas and his cadaver connection, was the testing ground. Lucas bypassed the mafia and used military channels to bring blue magic heroin directly into Harlem. This was the era that first institutionalized the missing man. The Vietnam vet father, suffering from PTSD and a drug habit he picked up in the service, became the first generation to be pushed into the shadows. Under the Housing Authority policy, a mother could only keep her public housing only if no able-bodied male lived in the home. This forced black men to become ghosts. They lived in the basements or the shadows, slipping in at night to see their children, while social workers conducted midnight raids to ensure no man was present. The government made the father's presence a financial death sentence for the family. The 1970s heroin crisis gave the state the excuse to declare the first war on drugs, turning police departments into occupying armies. As the 1980s arrived, the heroin market was replaced by the crack explosion. This was the most concentrated assault on the black family in history. The CIA, needing to fund the Contra rebels in Nicaragua after Congress cut off their funding, utilized traffickers like Oscar Danilo Blandon. Blandon flooded Los Angeles with cheap cocaine, which was then funneled to Freeway Ricky Ross. Crack was the perfect weapon of mass destruction for the family. Unlike heroin, which sedated the user, crack was a hyperstimulant. It created an immediate short-term rush that required constant, desperate need for money to sustain. It brought women into the drug trade and drug use in record numbers, leading to the mass expansion of the foster care system. The Crips and the Bloods, once neighborhood sets, became militarized franchises. They followed the interstate highways to the Midwest and the South, bringing the LA gang model to every city. The father was now either a dealer, a victim, or a prisoner. While the drugs flowed in, the politicians hammered the doors shut. In 1986, House Speaker Tip O'Neill and Senator Joe Biden pushed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act. They created the 100-to-1 sentencing disparity. If a black youth was caught with 5 grams of crack, he got 5 years. If a white professional had 500 grams of powder, he got the same. This was not a mistake. It was a filter designed to remove black men from society. In 1994, Bill Clinton signed the largest crime bill in the history of the United States at the time. It provided $10 billion for prisons and ended Pell Grants for inmates. It introduced the 3 strikes rule and truth in sentencing, which mandated that men serve 85% of their time. Parole was effectively dead. At the same time, the 1 strike and you're out housing policy meant that if a son was caught with a rock of crack, his mother and siblings were evicted. Mothers were forced to choose between their sons and their shelter. This is where the 18-year-old sacrifice became law. The current state of the black community is the result of these compounded traumas. The comfort with single-mother households is not a lack of values. It is the scar tissue of 3 generations of men being systematically removed by war, drugs, and prison. The gang culture we see today is the evolution of young men seeking the protection and brotherhood that the state-sanctioned removal of their fathers denied them. Even the music changed. The soul and funk of the 70s, which spoke of love and revolution, was replaced by a rap culture that by the late 90s was increasingly funded by the same corporate interests that benefit from the prison industrial complex. The hustle became the new religion because the legal economy had been closed to anyone with a felony record, a record that the 1986 and 1994 bills made nearly inevitable for young black men. The black family did not collapse. It was dismantled piece by piece by a government that provided the drugs, militarized the police, and built the prisons. Today's statistics are not a reflection of black culture. They are the final report on a 60-year experiment in social destruction. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment.